Hi everyone, my name's Sandy Scott and today I'm going to discuss the relationship between the information processing model and schema theory. Firstly, I'll discuss how the information processing model works. So, the information processing model describes how information is stored in your memory. The first stage of the information processing model, which is the input stage, is where we first come in contact with the information. This stage occurs in your sensory memory, which is a temporary store of information that all of your senses take in. Within your sensory memory, you have your iconic memory and echoic memory. These are the two most studied senses. Iconic memory is memory for what you see, and echoic memory is memory for what you hear. From all of the information that our senses pick up, we pay attention to only a certain amount of it that will begin to get processed into our working memory. Working memory or short-term memory is what you're currently thinking about, and in there you can hold around 7 pieces of information at one time in your working memory. Working memory is also split up into sections. We have the visuospatial sketchpad, which is where visual and spatial information is processed. We have the phonological loop, which is where verbal information is processed. Once information is processed in the working memory, it can then be passed along to the long-term memory. Long-term memory storage is the final stage. It can be split up into explicit memory and implicit memory. Information that's stored in explicit memory is stuff like facts and events that you can clearly describe, and implicit memory is where stuff like learning to ride a bike is stored, where it's hard to describe the task and you don't really forget how to perform it. So now that we understand a little bit about the information processing model, let's discuss a little bit about schema theory. So schema theory is one that's based on memory and storage of information. The schema theory states that there are a set of rules for helping us classify certain stimuli. For example, if we have a category of dogs, let's say, we can use our past experiences and recognition memory to help us understand if a new stimuli, visual stimuli, fits into that category. So if we see a dog, we know that it is a dog. Schema theory is closely linked to the information processing model. Essentially, the schema theory is an example of how we process and retrieve information. The information that we have learned throughout our lives we can use to help understand whether new stimuli follows the rules to fit into certain categories or certain schema. We retrieve that information from our memory to help us categorize these stimuli. Once we've determined where the stimuli fits in a certain category, we can process that new information and store it in our memory for recollection. One final example for a schema. Say we have a child who sees a horse. The child knows that a horse is large, has 4 legs and a long neck, so they successfully identify the horse as a horse. However, if a child sees a cow for the first time, they might get confused and identify the cow as a horse, as that fits into their original horse schema. So once the child's told that the cow is in fact not a horse and it is a cow, the child will need to make a new schema for the cow, and they will continue to make their schema for horse and cow more specific so that in the future they can successfully identify each animal. So I hope that makes sense for you, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.